the big problem that I'm trying to solve is that only professional programmers program, for the most part. There's not like what do you call it, amateur kind of. I mean, there is amateur programming, but like you kind of have to be like a pro amateur, you know. Like it takes a lot of time. It's hard to even get over that first hump. And so, and I don't think it has to be. I might be wrong, but I don't think it has to be. So this is what I'm trying to do, is at a high level, is build programming tools for non-pros, people who just want to dip their toes in, get a couple things done, and get back out again. And that has sort of two big pieces that are kind of emerging. One of them is that in the tooling, it's a pain in the butt to set up your IDE and like download all this stuff and like install an IDE and set up a build system and then provision a server and like all that stuff. So there's a side of this where I'm trying to make all that go away. I'm not going to talk about that today. There's another side of this, which is that the way we write software, for the most often, requires you to hold a big system in your head. I think we all see that. We all see this here when we look at Garbanzo. It's like in order to fix one part of the system, you have to really know a lot about how a lot of other parts of the system work. And so there's this rule that I kind of instituted for myself in this project, which is that like no module is bigger than like 150 lines, and everything is a module. There's no like folder that has a bunch of file views dumped in it. There's no folder that has like a bunch of controllers dumped in it. There's no grunt file that knows about a bunch of commands. If it's in the system, it's a module. There's no build system. There's no build tool. Like if you want something to be built, you have a build module, and it's not bigger than 150 lines of code, and it has a well-defined interface that other modules access it through. It turns out this is really hard. Like having that hard rule is really difficult, because what it means. Well, I guess I don't want to get into too much detail, but that's kind of like the overriding philosophy. Is like everything in the system, I want it to have a module that describes it and has a well-defined interface and is not bigger than you could, understand in an afternoon. And again, the idea here is that say Good Egg software was all written this way. The theory is, if somebody cared enough about a piece of the system, we could point them at the module that governs that part of the system, and they could change it. They'd only have to understand that module. They wouldn't have to understand like everything about how that might break other stuff. So anyway, again, that's all very theoretical. But let me just get started. Are there questions about that?
How do you deal with the problem of like module A gets used by like 18 different other modules, and say that module has a piece of logic that is something that someone who doesn't know anything about our system knows that they do want to change that.
Yeah.
But changing module A requires changing something about the interface of module A. Mm-hmm. So then, wouldn't you also have to be forced to change all of the things that consume module A? You would,
okay. For sure. And that's just a fact of programming. At some point, you need to change interfaces. The point of this is not that there are no interfaces, or that you never have to change them, or you never have to think about them. The point is that it's very clear at all times which code is inside your interface and which code is outside of your interface. So at all times, it's like I know where I am, and I know that there's me and 150 lines of code, and then there's an interface, and then there's everything else. Like I might have to move that interface for sure, but like I know when I'm moving an interface. Right now, it's like half the time you're moving an interface and you don't even know it because it's not clear which code might be depending on side effects of what you're doing. Yeah. So I'm going to make a demo folder and go in there, and I'm going to npm install Nrtv element. So everything is prefixed Nrtv. Narrative. So that's it's called the bigger project is called Narrative. The framework. What's that?
New Relic TV. That's
Yeah, New Relic TV. Yeah, the framework, the toolkit is called. I'm calling Nrtv. I'm using it as a prefix anyway. So let's do demo.coffee. I'm writing everything in JavaScript, but we can do the demo in coffee. So element acquire Nrtv element. So let's make an element. How about has a class? Foo. Actually, let's make it a. Oh yeah, me equals element person console log me.html. Right? So many parentheses I don't need. Okay. Let's run that. Coffee demo. Cool. Div class equals person.
Whoa.
So amazing. This is teacup, right? So that's cool. This is fairly teacup-ish. I like teacup. But one thing it has that teacup doesn't have is templates. So hello equals element template. So you define templates in the template. When you define a template, you can pass any of the stuff that you can pass to element. So like elements can take attributes, and they can take contents. You know, you get something like that, right? This is all teacup-y. And templates take, when you define a template, you can use all that same stuff. So let's make a person or a hi template. Templates also, you can give them a generator. So, oh Jesus. You're about to see like where the parts of my brain don't really line up.
That sounds really fun.
Okay, so a template can take all the same stuff that an element takes, plus it also can take a generator, and the generator can do anything. It can manipulate. So the scope on the generator is the element. So I can say this.children.push hello name, and then I can say Eric equals, and so what the template gives you is just a function that takes your arguments that you put in your generator. So I can say Eric equals hello Eric, and Max equals hello Max. And I'm going to log these two out. There we go. Hello Eric, hello Max. So this is a little different than the teacup components. I regret the teacup components a little bit. I think there are cases where you want to have a function that is like this element kind of thing, but I don't think templates are necessarily that case. I think templates should have a different interface than the element. The template is not an element. The template is sort of a theoretical construct about a thing that happens to represent a set of elements. But the interface to the template is not the same as the interface to elements. So in this case, the interface to my hello template is name. That was just something that was sort of interesting to me. It's something I went back and forth on. We often, I feel like often in Garbanzo, I want to make a component that can be customized, where I can just throw random like additional classes and attributes and onclicks and stuff and expect it to work. But where I've been leaning with this is that actually it's good to really separate the sort of domain interface and the DOM interface, and that your template should have domain a domain interface to it, domain arguments, and then if you want to do something over and over, or if you want to customize something about the element, just make another template. And so the problem is Teacup makes that hard because Teacup doesn't have composition, but I have composition. So in narrative, let's create something called, let's make a new template, element template. But we don't even need to actually, forget if we need to do it. Okay, so make another template called turns red when you click it.
Yeah.
I like your
I
philosophy.
know exactly what it is.
Yeah? Cool. So this is going to have an onClick, which is going to do like, I don't even know how HTML works, but L dot, let's say style, or let's say L dot add class. Let's assume we have, is there add class in HTML now? Let's assume we have jQuery. L dot add class red, right?
So you're returning an object, and that object becomes the attributes for the function, or for the element.
Sorry, what's that?
You're returning an object. Oh no, you're just giving.
I'm giving it an object. So this is the equivalent to, like, on this element, I could say onClick, you know, foo. It's the equivalent to that, right?
Why did you decide to go with like variable numbers of arguments?
For the template
Yeah.
or the element of variable numbers, because it's just that, like, depending on the moment, sometimes you care about classes, sometimes you care about contents, sometimes you care about attributes. It's just like different contexts, you want to do different stuff with elements. You know, sometimes you don't care. Sometimes you just care about different parts of it. So I guess I don't need this because it's not a JavaScript. I don't know if this will even work, but let's log out just that part. Let's do let's call this redder equals turns red when you click it, and let's log out. So redder is the element, turns red when you click it is the template. Reddit. Okay. Log out the HTML. Okay. So apparently I need a better. Sorry, what's that? I don't think so.
You gave a selector to your
Cool.
other template? Was
No,
this
does it require a selector?
Oh yeah, maybe. Oh yeah.
Try to do a string match on the.
Okay, yeah. So apparently you do need a selector. So there's a bug.
Ooh, yay!
Yay, first bug of the night. Not to mention the terrible error message. So
Selector, not bad.
so let's just do
Also,
this.
Mad props for doing live coding in a demo.
Thanks.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is all. Actually, I think that's correct. That's correct HTML. So this is the redifier, right? Let's just mix. So what we can do now is we can say our hello template. You can just pass it. I usually actually make the templates uppercase. So let me do that. Just so it's clearer to see. So you can actually just pass one template into another one. Reddit is not defined. And there you go. So now I have a hello, which has my hello Eric, plus it just composed in everything about the turns red when you click it template. So that's kind of fun.
That templates which both have children? Would it just have one set of children first and then the next third?
So the children is just an array, so you can just add more children.
Oh, I see. That's not actually part of your template. You're just looking at it.
If I think I actually don't know.
Could you do eric.children.pushMax?
Yes, totally. Eric.children.pushMax will totally work. Let's get rid of.
Dad.
And there you go. So now I have hello Eric, and then we added this hello Max inside of it. I don't know if I compose. Yeah, I think if I compose two templates with different children. So, if I want to do, let's see, there's my hello. If I want to do goodbye equals element.template bye, and then let's say that just has bye y'all. This is a template, has no generator. I think that's allowed. And then and it mixes in hello. So, or I don't know, like, let's just make a new one. Talkative equals element.template talk hello goodbye.
Oh. Whoa.
That's the right order.
I don't think it matters,
Whoa.
but problem is now is hello is not going to get its name. So I would have to pass in, you know what I could do is certainly pass in like Eric here, and then
What?
it would just work.
Wait, so the
Talker.
thing that gets is Talker
Once
the same
you
thing that Talkative is?
once you call no, so Talker is an element. Talkative is a template. Hello is a template. Hello Eric is an element. So if
And you can pass in an element to another element.
you can pass an element to another element. It's just acts as a child. So if I pass all of these, I don't know what'll happen. Talker.html. Yeah, so we get talk. We composed in hello and goodbye. Or no, we composed in goodbye, so talk also got the bye class, and we passed hello Eric as a child. So here we see hello Eric is the contents, and whoever asked about the child composition, you can see we got the bye y'all also. So we got the Eric child first, and then the bye y'all. Yeah, because that's a child, and this is also a child. And we composed.
Sorry, I came late. Can you just remind me tell me the percent. The argument order? It seems like it's
It doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter.
So it's based on just the type of the argument that it interprets
Yep.
what it means.
So
before you put another template for the talk,
yep,
it's the same as putting it in.
totally fine. Yeah, I could put goodbye here, and it would come out exactly the same.
It's just saying like apply all these things.
Wait, why bye y'all not before the hello div?
The bye y'all. So the composition. It's a question. It's a matter of like how all that stuff
Goodbye being
gets.
composed, but
Yeah.
child.
This hello is a child, and yeah, goodbye is being composed with
So you can-
talkative.
You can only compose things that are types of Nrtv element, and you can only
Yeah, you compose. Yeah,
children are
so
all
if
either
template
strings or
sees another template, it's like cool. I'm gonna compose it.
okay.
If template sees an element, it's like cool. That's a child. If template sees something that looks like a selector, it's like cool. That's a selector. If it sees an object, it's like cool. That's
How could it differentiate
attributes.
between a selector and just a regular string?
So we look for like something that starts with a dot, or something that has a dot and no spaces ish. This is a convenience, so you can also say element.raw by y'all, and that will work the same. And that way you can say, so for example, if I want to say element.raw like foo, then now foo is just regular child content.
And by the way, teacup selector parsing works the same. So if your content starts with a dot, like, and you don't have a selector, like you'll ruin your HTML.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think about like collision in that it seems like you can do composing where you, like earlier you showed like non-click handlers and you're composing like multiple things at one attached down. Like,
Yep.
what is the right thing to do there? Is it just, I don't know, at all, like somehow concatenate those non-clicks and do them all, or would one take precedence?
So the sort of introduction I did before, so the thing I'm trying to do, the big thing I'm trying to do is sort of build a web development framework where everything is a well-defined module that's not bigger than like 150 lines of code. So you never have to look outside of that module to understand what's happening when you're trying to fix something in the system. So I've tried pretty hard to have element be really specific. Like element is really just about building DOM. And what you're talking about is a little bit of a concern about it's a little bit of a concern outside of the DOM. It's like, well, what if you have multiple intentions about the DOM and you like to integrate those intentions together? I kind of intentionally, element is intentionally dumb about that.
So you're basically saying it's a little bit more on the implementer.
Yeah. So what we will see though, when we get into the components, we'll see how you can. The components are have a little more richness in terms of being able to maintain separate ideas about like behavior and. But that stuff isn't really fully implemented. But we'll get closer to it. So cool. So let's keep hi and let's get rid of the rest of this stuff. We'll keep hello, and we'll keep max, just so we have something. Cool. Hello, Max. Hello, Max. So I'm gonna move on now to servers. npm install. We're gonna need a few things here. Nrtv component is just the basic component builder. We need a thing called Nrtv server tie. I'll get into what ties are, but a tie essentially is something that tells a module how a tie is a module that explains how a tie explains how a module talks to other modules effectively through the component infrastructure. So the server tie knows how servers and routes talk to each other. The route tie knows how routes and elements relate to each other. I'll get more into that in a bit. So we need server tie and we need Nrtv bridge tie. And I think we need Nrtv route tie. So this is going to get a little verbose, and don't judge this on its verbosity. There have been a lot of cases. There have been a bunch of times. Is there no route tie? I guess that's the server. There have been lots of opportunities for me to make it less verbose, and what I've done instead is to try to prioritize other things, namely explicitness. So a lot of frameworks try to make stuff happen magically. So you can just do a very terse thing and have like really cool magic stuff happen. And that's great. But again, because my goal is to make it so that you can understand every part of the system without having to understand all the other parts of the system, I'm intentionally over and over again saying no to magic and saying yes to like making things a little bit more verbose and a little bit more explicit. And I think over time, I'm going to get to data structures. I'll do a little bit of magic here and there, but I'd like to get to data structures that are minimally magical, like as much as possible are very explicit. So this is going to get a little verbose, but I hope by the end of it you can appreciate why I went that way. okay, so that's not right. Nrtv component. We don't need the server. We just need we need a bridge tie, Nrtv bridge tie, and we need a server tie, Nrtv server tie. Great. So let's make a component. Let's make a component. What should it do? Something involving pizza. Pizza orderer.
Oh, okay.
What's that?
I was gonna say
Eat. Yeah, eat would work too. But order, we can pretend there's an ordering API, which will be fun. Let's call it order pizza, and it's a component. Cool. That's great. That won't do anything really. Gimme pizza. Yeah, that's better. Gimme pizza. So component by default is component is a very simple thing. It doesn't really understand anything about anything. It's very generic. Let's see. It's 150 lines again. That's my target. There's nothing specific in component about servers or routes or elements or anything. Component is just the thing that sort of understands how to tie together a bunch of ties. I'll get more into what that means. Let me just code more and shut up. So when you initialize a component, you tell it which ties you need. Again, I'm trying to be really explicit. Not every component needs to have an HTTP server, right? Your component might just like take SMS messages and send out carrier pigeons, right? It might be an API server. So there's the bridge, client server bridge, is a thing that bridges a node process with HTML context. If you have an API, if you're serving an API, you don't need a bridge. You don't need to bridge down to the client. So I kind of explicitly made it so that every component, you just say which pieces you actually need. Let me just, again, let me try to pull through this code quickly and get something working. If I do now, so I added this server tie. So I added these tie types to the component. That doesn't actually do anything. That just says to the component, hey, I'm going to want these types of ties. Like I'm going to have a bunch of elements that I'm talking to, that I'm wiring up. I'm going to have a bunch of servers that I'm wiring up. But it doesn't actually create them. So what I need to do first is I say my component's going to have a server. So I say my server is gimmepizza.server.
So because you added server tie to Gimme Pizza, now Gimme Pizza has the server function, or is it just
Yep, exactly. I want that. This should be a reusable thing, right? I'm trying to define a component. I'm not just trying to start a server. So this gimme pizza, what I can do now is I can say gimme equals new gimme pizza. So component, when you call component, it returns a constructor. Gimme pizza is a constructor. It happens to be a constructor that you can.
It's also singleton.
It's essentially a context for your generator to run. So what I'm doing up here is this is code that generates the component. If that makes sense. It starts off with kind of a blank component, it builds it up, and then you're done. You've got something that you can instantiate. So if I do gimme, and then I do gimme more, I can start both of these. Gimme more, 1902. Cool. Now let's run that. I've got both. 1901 and then 1902 is the same thing. So that's fun. So again, so I will. So no. So what I've built, it only does one component. So I can't yet do component composition. I can't yet do component arguments. I can't yet do inter-component communication. That's the big thing I'm working on. That's what I was working on this weekend. It doesn't work. You can only do one component at a time. This is like kind of a little academic. It's like, well, why? It's a component if you can't do, like, plug it into other stuff. But what I'm trying to, the thing I'll be able to show you is you can do a component that spans a huge set of concerns, from all the way from writing to the database all the way down to setting up style sheets. And what I'm going to argue is that when you can build components, what I'm trying to do is build something where you can build components all the way from top to bottom in a way that is at least conceivably composable, and is at least conceivably nestable. I haven't quite figured out how to actually do that yet, but so I'm sort of, I'm trying to get there. It's hard. But let me keep going. Let's keep going, because this is not the cool stuff yet. And we're getting close to where we can start to do cool stuff. So let's see. Do I need this? No, I don't need that. Right. We're not starting this anymore. Okay, so we've got our gimme pizza. Let's make an element. Let's make a button. Let's call it gimme button. Gimme button. And that's going to be a button. And it's going to have a class. Sure. Gimme. It's going to say gimme pizza. Cool. So we've got our gimme button. Actually, this doesn't need to be a template, does it? I don't think so. So what I want to do now is I want to add one more tie, which is a cool one, which is the element tie. Nrtv element tie. And we're going to add that in. We're not using the bridge yet. Before we do that, actually, let's do this gimme button, and let's make one button equals gimme button. We create the server, and then let's start using the bridge. So this is sort of, so again, this is boilerplate, which is a little bit verbose. Bridge, I forget if you give server to bridge or if you give bridge to server. Let's look at the tests. Bridge. You give the server to the bridge. Okay, so, and then with bridge, you do bridge.send page. That's right. That's right. The bridge bridges a server with an HTML with a client context, so it has to know that server exists. But server could be any kind of AJAX, any kind of HTTP, anything. Okay, so instead of response.send, let's use so I can do this: server.route get/bridge send page button, right? So I just gave it an element. And so what's happening here is, actually no, so server doesn't have to know anything here. What bridge is doing is you can say to the bridge, hey, I would like to send a page to the user. and I'd like it to have this element on it. And what Bridge does, Bridge is like, okay, I know about servers. I know that servers want a handler, and so I'll provide you a nice handler. So this is a good example of like what a tie does. So the client-server bridge knows about how to proxy stuff. Well, okay.
Why does the bridge need an instance of server?
It might not. That's a good question. Let's leave it out. Let's see how far we get. Okay, cool. So let's do gimme.start 9991. See if this works. 9991. Great. Give me pizza button. Okay, so this doesn't seem very different, but it's interesting if you look at what we have. Like this has jQuery, it has a whole template. The bridge, and it has this thing called it has this JavaScript that has a bridge on the client. So this is what Bridge is doing. Bridge is, you have a bridge on the server, and it's creating something on the client that it knows how to talk back and forth. And in the rest of your app, you don't think about that at all. So if you want to say, so if I wanted to, for example, say bridge.bind, I think it's bind on client. Define on client. Okay, so let's start digging into Bridge, I think, because Bridge is kind of cool. So if I want to have a function be available on the client, I can just do bridge.defineOnClient, and let's say we'll call it holla, and then words, and then it's just going to do alert words, right? This is a pretty simple client binding. And let's log out what holla is. I actually don't exactly remember what it looks like, but it'll be interesting. Okay, so cool. So holla is a function. So holla is a function, but it's not this function. Let's log out holla yo max. Right? Whoa, that's not, so we didn't do alert yo max. What define on client gives you is it gives you back essentially like a curried function. It's like, or a curryable function. It's like, here's a function, and if you give me data, I will give you a thing that you can give to the client, which will cause that function to be run with that data. Okay? So essentially what this is doing is it's okay, so let's look at the client now. This is kind of neato. So now we're getting into the neat stuff. If you're not impressed by this, it means that this is a little bit boring. Okay, so we're listing on 9991. Okay, so check this out. On the client, we have our object called funcs. And it has a function, there's our function, alert words. And here's our key, 462D, and that's the thing that we had on the server. So what that means is if you send that binding down to the server, you send exactly this object in a JSON response, you send exactly this. That means on the client, so here we have this thing called bridge, right? If you pass this binding key args, yo max, to this function, it's going to say, hey, find the func with that key, apply it, use this as the context, and oh, by the way, here are the args, right? Yo max. So what that means is if you pass this to the client, it's going to run holla with yo max. And that's sort of like the heart and soul of the bridge is actually doing a bunch of things, but that's one of the big things that bridge is doing. So that's cool. So if you just want something, if you want to do something on the client, that's how you do it. So the element tie here knows about this. It knows about the bridge. And if I, instead of creating my gimme button, where's my gimme button? Instead of creating my gimme button like this, if I use the element tie, I can say gimme pizza dot element, right? So I'm instantiating a new tie. I'm instantiating a new element tie with all that stuff. Then I can also say, oh, sorry, I think it should be, because, oh, it shouldn't, I have to add the element tie. Good catch. So if I add an element tie, it should have element. And then let's not log this out anymore. Let's console log gimme button. Let's see what that looks like. Did I? Where? Oh. Oh. I just don't need that at all. But I do want to send this new gimme button. Let's just call it button still. All things. Function has no method element. Oh, because did I not? Oh, Nrtv element tie.
So you don't actually need Nrtv element at all anymore to require from my
Yeah, true. Cool. Cool. So what did we get here? I'm learning also as I remember how these things work. Okay, so we logged out the button. So the button is this thing. It has its contents. It has some classes. It also has this ID. And the reason it has an ID is, so I think element tie always just assigns an ID to every element. So let's put the server aside for a moment. Let's think about, on the client, we want to talk to the server across the bridge. So let's think about the other way. We're going to need a route, right? It's going to be a get, and it's just going to be, should be get or post? Let's try post. I don't know if I think that works. Post pizza. That seems about right. REST. What's that?
That's eating pizza.
Eating pizza. Pizza orders? Yeah, let's do orders. Post orders. Right? And that's going to be, there's going to be a request I don't care about and a response. That's true. Let's send that. Cool.
I feel like this page should just rank pizzas now.
It should. Cool. So we made a route. Great. We have a button. It's the most important part. Okay, so we made our route. Let's save it. This is make pizza. And now here's where this starts to get, I think, really interesting. Here's our gimme pizza button. Make pizza. Let's just log this. Oh, where did I send that button? Oh, I need that up. I guess this route needs to be after the button. So this is something. Make pizza is a route, right?
Yes.
Routes have this function called make requests, and let's log out what that does. Ooh. Is that not how CoffeeScript works? Okay, cool. So interesting. So this is what the route, when you say route.makeRequest, you get this back. Funcs blah 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 dot apply bridge post pizza, right? And you'll notice that's familiar. Let's look at our HTML page. Oh, hit route. So there's a function called hit route, which is very simple. It's just wraps jQuery's Ajax. And it takes a verb and a path, and it does this thing, and it has a success handler, which, do you remember that before? So the success handler points to the bridge handler, which is the thing that we talked about before, which knows how to parse the responses that were generated by the element, or what generated those? I forget. So, and interestingly, what is this? It's just a string. It's just a string. It's ready to go. It works. It's global scope. Page scope. Funcs is defined in the global JavaScript scope, and it's just a reference to that stuff. And so now, if we put that into our onClick, we reload, and we'll pull open our network. Hopefully this works. Well, cool. I don't know what happened. That was weird. But
It's there.
yeah, cool. So response text hi. So that means we hit our route.
Wait, so did it document that right? So
I think that's what happened, because I haven't actually. So I just in my route. Where's my route? Where'd my route? Oh, here it is. Post pizza response.send hi. Right. What do I want to do? Yeah. Oh yeah, response.json. Cool. Let's try that.
Yeah,
What's the
post or something?
Oh yeah. Okay. I think that will work. Yeah. Cool. Great. Pizza came back. Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of I think we're starting now to get into the parts of this that I think are a little bit worth ruminating on.
Can you do something based on the auth or based on the intent?
On the client?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Response. So yeah. Okay. Yes. So sure. Let's jump into that. So if I want to do bridge.define on client, what do you want to do with it? You could do an alert.
Here. Or keep this ready. Or get the pizza out of the oven.
A ping pong. Server sends a ping, client responds with a pong. They keep alternating every second. But it's all
We could do that.
Awesome.
Okay, ready. So here, response.json, ready.
What?
Let's try it. Oh,
So far so good. It just
Oh, it printed out?
something on the client needs to be able to take the response from the server and then call the function.
for a, no, it's there. Oh, I see.
Yeah,
It's
on line 21 it should be ready function dot binding. Right?
Yep, right. Totally. I think that is, so it's not, I mean, these are internals. Hey, pizza's ready. So, these are internals. So actually, you don't, we happen to be using this ready directly, but in general, I don't want you to know or think about what ready is. It's just, you should just know it's a function. It will give you a bound. It will give you data bound to the client. So if we go one step further, let's also add another element, which is success. Hide. There happens to already be a hide. I think, did I already set that up? Hide. Oh yeah, hidden. Hidden. So let's make a success message equals gimme pizza.element. And then what we can do here is success message.show on client bridge. So show on client is a thing that the element tie knows about. The element tie's job is to tell other parts of the system about the element and things to do with the element. So one of those things it can do is the element tie can tell the bridge how to show an element. Element tie knows about the bridge tie. Bridge tie knows how to do JavaScripty stuff. So success message dot show on client bridge. Let's log out what that looks like. Also, are we doing any other console logs? No. Good. Let's start that up. Ooh. Route post requires callback functions that got objects. Yeah, that's right. There needs to be a function there. I think there might be a show. Oh, right. Yep. So this is a good example actually of the kind of thinking I've been doing.
Well, you haven't actually
Where
like the magic yet.
Yeah, well, it's not. Yeah, exactly. Like, should the element tie know about servers? Should the element tie know about like handlers? Like a handler is kind of a route thing. I kind of made the call of like, no, it should just know about the bridge, and if you want to hook it up to a route, then you do that by hand. So here we have to do response.json. And so what this does is this just returns, I mean, we saw it logged out here. It returns the binding, right? So that's a little inconsistent, I guess. Maybe bind on client should just return the binding and not binding : binding. I don't know. Regardless, this should work. Okay, cool. So let's look at what we've got. So we have now another function on the client, show element. So this is also something worth noticing, is that there's not a giant framework here that's included on the client. There's no nrtv.js, right? Other than jQuery, right? Which is a giant framework. But eventually I think all of these can be made to just use native JavaScript or some subset. But I think it's really worth noting that I'm only sending down exactly the functions that I need. Like this show element did not exist until it did not exist on the page until I used it. Like I did element dot, what did I do? Show on client bridge. And what that did is it said the element tie was like, cool, I have this element. I'm trusting that you're going to put it on the page because otherwise this is all pointless. But if you put it on the page.
So if you kept the console.log statement in there but took out line 19, then it would still put that on the page. But why would you do that?
The element? Oh yeah, it's in there. I mean, it's in there. Where is it?
No, sorry. I mean, in your code.
Oh, it's not even in there yet.
On line 14, you have the console.log statement with show and client in it.
Yeah.
Just including that will put the success message on the client. Okay?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. What is required? Oh, yeah. So So this won't work. Actually, this is broken in several ways. So if I do just this, if I get rid of this, this won't work at all, right? If I reload, there's no more show, what was it called? Show element. It doesn't exist because we haven't called this function yet. So what we actually need to do is show success. We need to do that up here, show success. We define that. That will cause the bridge to know that it has this new function, and then we just pass it down here. And I spelled it wrong. But what that means... Oh, because if I put this in here, like, we don't run this function until we actually hit the pizza route. And by then it's too late. It's like you already sent the page. It's too late. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I think this is a really cool property of this. Like this page, there's no cruft on this page. There's no extra JavaScript. There's no extra CSS. It's literally only the things you specifically need on that page to make it work, which I think is a really neat property. So let's see, will this just work? Post, show success. It might just work. Give me pizza. Oh, yeah. So here's why this doesn't work. Is like element is not on the page yet, right? Here's our send page button. Like the page we're sending is just button. There's nothing else. So if I need to do element button success message. Let's see if that works. No. Aha. So I could include narrative. I might as well, because I don't actually. Here's an element. I don't need the element tie. I could do gimme pizza.element, but like I don't really care. Like it's not an active element. It's just a container that has two other elements in it. Object element has no method replace. Oh, that's the same one. This is like body, let's say. Oh, you have to. Do I have to give it? I think I have to give it. I think I have to give it an array. I don't know. Let's try. An array. Okay, yeah, that worked. And there's the button. And then I give it the success message. I see. So element, you can't just give an element another element. It doesn't understand that. Template, you can give multiple elements, and it'll be like, these are all children. I don't know, maybe those should be unified. Okay, but let's see. Haha, success. So what happens, so that part is this. Response JSON show request, show success. So the element tie talked to the bridge, it set up this thing it was going to do in the future. Hey, in the future we might want to show this thing. Give me back a binding. And then we're like, cool. I want you to send that back to the client whenever you make a pizza, and then boom, it all works. So that's cool. Real quick, I'm gonna, yeah.
Element initially hidden.
Because of that hidden class. So where did I make?
Oh,
Yeah, dot hidden. Yeah, yeah. That's why that's the only class that's on every page. Is because like that's the only one I've needed so far. It felt pretty foundational. Let's make a fancy message. Let's do like success equals element.template. Element.template. Success. Element. Now here's something new. Style. So templates can take all the stuff the element can take. Templates can take other templates to be composed with. Elements can take children. Templates. Templates can take all the stuff element can take. Templates can take other templates to compose. Templates can also take styles. So this is something that's pretty different than other frameworks. Let's do background, light green, color. I keep forgetting I'm in CoffeeScript. I can make this all so pretty. Color green, border 1 pix solid green, padding 4 pix, 8 pix. Cool. And now success message. Instead of taking just text, we'll give it a success with So here's another cool thing, element.template.container. So, oh, sorry, container. So this is just a helper function. So I want my success message to be able to take arbitrary children, but again, all templates have you make the interface. Like you have to explicitly define the interface to your template. There's no magical this can take a bunch of stuff. So I could give it a generator like I did before, where I say message blah, and then I do this dot children dot push message, right? But there's a shortcut for that, which is element.template container. And that lets me just say, your pizza is ready, yo. So let's do that. So here, success message is a gimme pizza element. It starts out hidden, and it takes this child, I guess. I'm going to put that in an array. I don't know if this is probably broken, but well, maybe not. Okay, so this isn't quite going to work, but let's see if it is totally broken. So we have our gimme pizza button. We have our hidden element. It got its class. It says the pizza's ready. We click this, but okay, it's not styled, right? Again, it's not styled because I explicitly don't want magic. No magic. Send page. Oh. Okay. So again, so this is more explicit than I thought it was. Okay. So here's our element. Here's our body element. It has a button. It has a success message. And will that work?
Yeah, the open brace, but no close brace.
Oh. No, is this going to even compile? Okay, great. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to add one more thing to my body. Element.styleSheet. So now you notice I'm not just doing element style, right? I could do element style, but that's dumb. Like element, I don't mean it's stupid to do that. I mean element is too dumb to know what to do with that. It's like, okay, if you just give it text, like you could do that. But element has this helpful thing called element.styleSheet, and you pass it a template, and that'll generate a template, or you pass it any number of templates, and it'll generate a style sheet for that template.
It's going to put it in the body.
It will put it in the body. Yep. And I know this is terrible. Let's put this body. I don't know. I can like live code here, but so yeah, some kind of copy script. Okay, and now here, cool, style sheet, success, right? Cool, my pizza's ready.
Wait. Did you actually explicitly say that the class would be success, or did it just?
I did. Well, so the template's a little smart. So what template? When you tell template, when you give template a selector and a style, it assigns the style to like what its best guess is about where you want it, which right now just means it gets the first class. I think a side effect of doing this work of trying to take apart all of these concerns and really isolate them so that the things that talk to other things are all together in a module. There's no like, well, this module over here is like talking way over here, like to the internals of this other module. It's like if there's a communication format, like the client-server bridge is a good example. Nothing in this system knows how to interpret a client-server bridge binding except the bridge itself. The element doesn't know how to interpret that stuff. the generating of the data and the parsing of the data are in the same module. And like there's generally a rule for this system. And like what that means is you can modify those internals like without changing anything else. Like I can, if I want to change my pizza route to pizzas, post pizzas, it's like I just change pizzas and then it's like everything just works, you know? Because that concern is confined to the gimme pizza component.
What if you have a component that has itself made up of a bunch of other components?
Yep.
Then
So you have arrived at exactly where I am now
I see.
with my development, which is I want to be able to make a component like this and then have it say, make another component. I want to be able to take the Gimme Pizza button and embed it on the Good Eggs website, right? And have the Good Eggs website doesn't have to know anything at all about the internals of the Gimme Pizza component, and it just works. Doing that is doing that the right way is difficult. Like I think once I figure out really how to structure it right, I don't think it will be that complicated code-wise, but I keep trying things that I think are not quite the right representation. Let's see, how is this supposed to work here? So eventually, we're not going to want to use the server, this route at all. Eventually, we're just going to say, you know what, like, or I don't know, we might say, well, we're not going to have this be send page. It's going to be like, and I don't even know if this is a route, but at some point we're going to just want to say like, this is the element. This is my root element. Like if you want to embed me, here's my element.
Because you might want to have a page that has a Gimme Pizza, but it also has a
Yeah.
Hats.
And
you
then
want them to
I
be
think
part of the same page.
the place where I'm kind of leaning is that these ties, the tie is going to be the thing that that manages some of these concerns. So for example, client bindings, right? Like I would like to be able to use, so this show element binding, maybe I want to use that in a bunch of different components. Maybe I have this whole rich tree of components and I'm using that all over the place. If every individual component has its own set of client bindings, I'm going to pass that function down over and over and over again. And that's not what I want. So there needs to be some sort of shared state between all of the instances of the ties. And I think that's where this going is that the bridge tie, there'll be lots of bridge ties, but they will all have a reference to sort of like the I'm calling it the collective. Which is like, this is like where all the collective bridge tie stuff goes, and it will contain the client bindings. And you'll be able to do something like component dot using, and you'll tell it the stuff you want to use, bridge tie, etc. And then within that, and this will give you a new reference to component. And then if you make new components in here, or say I have my Gimme Pizza, if I do component bridge tie Gimme Pizza,
Well, that's Texas.
it's very required JS-y. I've been using required JS. So if you do component or you do Gimme Pizza, oh, Angular, oh yeah,
Well, it's the same idea, I think.
I really like this style. But so if you do this or you do this, it is within essentially a context. And so all of the bridge ties within that using call will all share a common scope. So whenever I do a new request, I do a new using, and that means all of the bridge ties will use the same set of client bindings for the duration of that request. And then at the end of my thing, when I do I'll do something like bridge, when I do bridge.send page, it knows this bridge knows about, like, if it's like good eggs equals component, and we do, bridge equals good eggs dot bridge, right? And then we do like good eggs dot element give me pizza, right? Something like that. Page equals this page, right? That when this bridge does bridge send page, it's using the same, that bridge has the same reference to the same collective as the gimme pizza bridge. So inside gimme pizza, it's also saying, so gimme pizza would have to be defined also using this. So you would do component.define gimme pizza, and that's taking bridge tie and function component bridge tie, right? So you can see I'm slipping into JavaScript. And of course here we're doing gimme pizza equals component, dot dot dot. So this bridge tie would have reference to the same, because of the way component define and component using work together, this bridge tie would have the same collective as this bridge tie. But if I did component.using, if I did this again, down here, this bridge tie would be different. It would have a different collective than these two. And I think that's going to solve my client binding problem. It might actually solve the the style sheet thing. So it might be, maybe I have a template tie, and it's like whenever you create a template or use a template, it just automatically knows like, hey, this is a template that we used. And then when you send the page, you can just say, hey bridge, send the page. Here's the body element. Talk to the template tie, like make a template tie and be like, hey template tie, can you tell me what all of your other fellow templates or styles, all your other fellow templates are using? And then it would just do it. And so it confines that CSS concern completely within the template tie. And it confines the client bindings concern completely within the bridge tie. Anyway, that's a dump. It's pretty fun. Thank you.